Two recordings. Now we're recording.
Nothing's happening though, so you can undo it. Let's find out what happens. Stop recording.
I
Pause.
can pause recording.
There we
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure it worked.
Okay. Well,
But yeah, we
welcome
can do an
everyone.
introduction. Hmm?
This is Marc Morisseau, and we are very lucky to have him here. I met Marc over 10 years ago when he was a stamp student and was helping teach motion capture for animation and biomechanics back before there was virtual reality or very much going on in terms of the animation software, the likes of which we're about to see today. That is extraordinary. So it is just thrilling to be able to have Marc join us today. So take it away, Marc.
Hey, everybody. My name is Mark. Um, let's see. I don't. Oh, I'm trying to move this stupid Zoom thing. Yeah, I graduated in '09, and I think it was '09. And yeah, I spent a couple years at the just haunting the 3D lab for a while, and got to work with Melissa on MoveSci for 37, is it? Um, and then at some point moved to Los Angeles, and I'm gonna kind of talk about my experiences a little bit, kind of going into what I had been doing when I had left. Um, what was that? Something's playing music. I'm sorry. All right, that's weird. Um, I think I'm gonna start with this presentation. So the presentation actually, I was supposed to do a talk on Avatar in Arizona and then also one in Michigan, and those just didn't pan out. So I already had a lot of this kind of already put together. So which is why I was able to put this together so quickly because it was already done for the most part, and I just added some of the things that were more relevant to other things as well. So, um, let's get into this. I'm gonna, I don't know. Okay, that worked. So overall, basically, I've been involved with virtual production my entire career. Luckily, I'm very fortunate. I didn't have to really bounce back into different things. I started my career as a motion capture artist, and I was primarily focused on or in games and film. And then I started getting just working more and got promoted to a stage supervisor and stage manager and all this stuff. And I got to work on a lot of different properties and franchises from Call of Duty to Marvel films and then James Cameron's Avatar. And we'll get to talk about some of that stuff while we're talking today. Um, I am currently in employed at Free Range Games, and I'm their motion capture and cinematic director. So I am in charge of both everything that has to do with the motion capture and our team there, from R&D to building our pipeline, building our standards and practices, um, getting mocap work from stage all the way to our animation teams. And then on the cinematic director side, we have multiple games in production, and those different games have different needs when it comes to telling the game's story cinematically. So sometimes some games are they just have cutscenes. Some have cutscenes and other in-game scenes that happen, and some games they just need marketing material like trailers and things like that made. And all of that stuff, at least from internally at our company, I'm in charge of all of that stuff from a cinematic standpoint. This is our stage we're based in Marina del Rey. We have two offices, one in Sausalito, California, which is in the Bay, and then one in Los Angeles. And we chose Los Angeles because there's a lot of talent there, both for performance and for building and supporting motion capture, performance capture stages. So they thought it would be best if they set up the headquarters for the mocap team down in LA. And I was very lucky when I joined. They basically just said, just pick a building and that's the where we'll do it. And we got a nice little building that once they it used to be the assembly plant for the Cobra Shelby GT engine where Cheryl where Cheryl what's his name? whatever, the Cobra engines for all of the Mustangs and sport cars and all that stuff. They were built there. Anyway, so it's got a good vibe. Um, when I left Michigan, I first started in I guess it was games, and I was my first job was like on Resident Evil 6, and then that kind of snowballed into a lot of other games and movies, kind of alternating between the two industries, but still staying within the lane of performance capture. And I kind of like pinpointed, I guess, some pivotal marks on this kind of little timeline here for games, bouncing back from games and film that kind of like had a relatively large impact on kind of like how I approached kind of like my career and kind of my focuses within my career. So like Titanfall was obviously a game. It was a I was a mocap supervisor on that for 2 years, and that was just really fun to start problem solving stuff. And then, because I don't know if you guys realize this, but motion capture is all about problem solving. Like, how do we capture this thing? How do we capture the motion or the essence of this object or this person? And what if we need them to pick up a prop, or what if we need them to sit down on a thing, or what if we need to put a blanket on, like just little things. And how do we get these two things to interact the way we want to capture it for our animation team? So it's a lot of problem solving, and that was kind of formulaic for how I would approach kind of problem solving on stages in the years to come. And then working on the Ant-Man film, that was fun because I got to do a lot of firsts there. Most namely, which you'll see in a minute, was I got to work with the virtual camera system for that game for that movie because there's a lot of that movie that's motion captured because pretty much almost anything that had a small version of that hero character was mocap, and that required a virtual camera to it, and I got to shoot virtual camera and some sequences on that film. And then Call of Duty, again, same thing, kind of elevated problem solving. Um, and a lot of other things I'm not going to get into because there's just not enough time. And then obviously Avatar, which was I call it a monument of technology. It was pivotal because every day was reinventing the wheel because we couldn't just go kind of Google an answer for something because like no one had ever done this. So we'll get into a lot of that stuff as well. And actually this presentation might even answer some of the questions that I got from you guys through Melissa. So hopefully I can be able to answer a lot of those in progress. Um, so just in terms of like problem solving for the Call of Duty franchise and some other franchise, this particular one was Call of Duty. So this was our stage in um, Woodland Hills for Infinity Ward. But a lot of the problem solving for building sets was how do we build a set that we can shoot mocap through and see data, but also how do we shoot sets where they're safe to perform on? So there has to be some sort of bare minimum of things that are taken into account or placed to make something safe for someone to do stunts on and also work with the technology around the system that we've built. So in the top left corner, we had a set that was like a bridge that was collapsing, and a guy had to kind of flip over the rail, and fall down into an abyss somewhere. And then there's the photo next to it, and that set was at that angle that was locked down, but I had to also design and build another set that did the same thing. That was a moving set that would actually collapse one piece and like have the stunt guys fall and then fall onto another level of the set. And just working out the logistics of how do we make it safe and functional and then repeatable. So there had to be a lot of things taken into account, and that's just something I had to figure out. It was like, how do I make this safe? How do I make it repeatable? How do I make it consistent so that we can shoot five, six, seven takes and it be the same time or same thing every time? So those giant chairs was a solution for making these like kind of like I kind of think call them like roller coaster chairs but they were on hydraulics. It was a weird thing, a custom thing, but that's ultimately how we ended up making them work for mocap and for stage. And then there's like a giant vehicle in the bottom right. Um, Obviously, we did mocap vehicles, but most of the time when you mocap vehicle, you don't need to mocap an actual car moving around because they're inside the car. So you just need to have the parts of connection points to get into it and sit down and touch the things that they're going to touch, whatever, in the game or whatever. And that was a like a big ATV style vehicle. Um, and then okay, so after was this before that? I think it was before Call of Duty. So I started this working on Ant-Man, and I got to get a lot of just time and a lot of time actually just working on stage with the virtual camera system and shooting sequences for Marvel using previs for some of their scenes. And one of the scenes that I did previous for and shot cameras on was a scene in the film where it's like a backstory thing where the Ant-Man character and his wife, the Wasp, are trying to get inside of a missile that's headed towards the United States. Anyway, so I when I watch that scene, I can see a lot of my camera influence in some of those final shots, which is exciting. So you've got my cameras on the right and then of screen, and then like one of the final cameras on the left of screen. But that was fun, and that was the first time I had done virtual camera on a feature film.
Mark,
Um,
can you help us? I'm still trying to understand what virtual camera is because you're holding a camera. Can you explain that concept?
Sure, I'll explain it more. There's gonna be another one that pops up, but a virtual camera, if you just imagine just a regular camera, like making a student film or something like that, right? So you have a regular camera and you're looking at your friend, and let's say your camera has, or your friend is wearing a mocap suit, and they've got those retroreflective markers all over their body, and they're kind of driving a virtual skeleton. Well, the camera, you can put the same markers on the camera and then assign a virtual camera like one in Motion Builder or some other or Unreal Engine or another package, and say, "Hey, virtual camera, be driven by the movement of these markers."
Oh,
Or Unreal, you'll be able to see that same person and be one to one with your virtual camera and your real camera. So, um, a virtual camera, if you ever like your perspective view is also a virtual camera inside of Motion Builder or Unreal Engine as well. And those cameras can be manipulated or driven by incoming live data. So, um, the virtual camera is the camera view inside of the virtual space, if that makes sense to everybody. So, um, we're doing these mocap shots for this film. We don't have, or we didn't have, Paul Rudd on the day doing the motion or anything. We had the data from the stunt guy being driven or driving a Ant-Man suited character in Motion Builder on the day, and I had a camera looking at that scene. And they parented me to the missile so I can kind of ride the missile just like they were and shoot camera footage on their performances. And then when we took that camera footage, we rendered it straight out of Motion Builder, and then we edited it. At this one, I don't think we edited in Motion Builder. I think we took renders from it and edited it outside. But that kind of piqued my interest in capturing and or yeah, capturing performance, capturing cameras, and editing inside of whatever package we're looking at. So in this case, it was Motion Builder and would later be Unreal Engine. But did I answer your question? Was that Melissa that asked?
you did. Thank you. And for the students in the class who might not have started working with camera views
Hmm.
yet, I think it will, when they get there, this will make even more sense.
Gotcha. So I was peaked with camera and editing inside of Motion Builder. So I actually started doing more of that. So I started mocapping scenes into Motion Builder and then shooting live cameras. So on the on screen left, you can see an actual one of the virtual cameras that I've built relatively recently. But the concept was the same. It's just a rig with motion capture markers all over it, just like a person would, and we can drive a camera with that data and stream that over into Unreal or Motion Builder. And I would do editorial processes in Motion Builder at the time, and that would be I would build out previs scenes for different projects. This one is previs for one of my own projects. Um, and let's see. I think so. This is I'll show some footage of it. For the most part, everything that I'm going to show footage of today, I will send links. So, Melissa, I will email you the links out so they can watch the whole things on their own time. Because I don't want to eat up the time just looking at different. Sure, yes, allow access. Looking at different stuff. But this project was a game project. So after Marvel, after 2018, the pandemic happened. I was stuck at home, and I thought, well, let me use all my skills and make my own game. So I started doing that. And so I ended up working on my own little game that had a lot of cinematic elements to it. And so like this is some footage from one of the demos that I had put together. So it's kind of running at real time, but there's also cinematic moments and elements that happen throughout the entire gameplay. And all of that was done by virtual camera and mocap and some other stuff like that. And so that's what I did during COVID, which was since we were all mostly stuck at home, and I got, you know, 2 to 4 hours a day back because I didn't have to drive anywhere. So I could do my job and then start my own stuff later in the evenings. So this is like I think one of the playthroughs. This link will be out, but yeah, it was just me, and for a long time it was just me for about a year, and then at some point I got a grant from Epic Games and used that grant to hire a team, and then me and the team worked on it for about 2 years, maybe. So environment and all this other stuff and music and all this other stuff was made for my little demo. Um, that was exciting. That was a lot of that. I learned a lot. I learned a ton, and everything that I learned from that experience, I definitely carried through to all of my work after that. So let me go for the next thing. Um, and so it was around COVID that I started to look at like what's being expected of people in our profession then versus now, or what's coming up. And a lot of times back in the I call it back in the day, when you're an animator, it's like all you needed to know was like these principles in pink, right? You didn't really need to know much else. And granted, that in itself was a lot, but you didn't really need to do much. But now with how integrated all these production processes are, whether it's games or movies, um, like just saying animator, like you're gonna need and want a ton more skill sets than you ever thought you ever needed. So, during in my course of like education, I would pick up set construction and like prop fabrication. Like I was a mocap tech, but I had to learn how to use the tools of what do you call it, like special effects artists for making molds for because they wanted to build their own prop and stunt weapons out of foam and rubber as opposed to trying to buy them online, because it was cheaper and you can make more, and two, if there was something unique about their weapons or props, they wanted to just build it in house. So I had to learn how to have a workshop for chemicals and like all these resins and like build molds to like fabricate weapons so that we can use them on the mocap stage, which I never thought I would be doing, but whatever. So on top of that, camera production hardware and just learning camera production hardware is its own art form. And then cinematography, and then all the other things just involved with getting animation into a system like a game engine is a lot different than like, oh, just put it in Maya and render it or type. There's a lot of skill sets that you're going to be expected to know, and I would encourage you to, you know, reach out and try to acquire. Whether you're doing something artistic or scientific, it's going to help you regardless of what you're trying to do. So, um, I took all the skills that I had ha learned through from COVID, and some of this, and mind you, a lot of this going Avatar is happening over this. We'll get to that, but when I left Avatar and COVID was over, uh, I ended up at Free Range Games, and one of the projects that we had was the Return to Moria, which was like a survival crafting game, and they had these cinematics, and they kind of ran into a problem with one of their cinematic vendors, and they said, "Oh my God, we have to redo all of this." And then they literally looked at me and said, "Can you redo everything?" And I just said, "Yes." And so I ended up redoing all the cinematics for that game. So that game, what I was responsible for was the following, right? Storyboarding and shooting the motion capture, building the pipeline from scratch because there was no cinematic pipeline at the time because that's why they outsourced it because they didn't have anyone or any way to handle that stuff. I had to supervise all the processing of the mocap data, and then get coordinate with our animation teams for assembly, and then for animation polish. Like, so I had to run the animation team as well to get all the animation updated. I had to integrate it all into Unreal Engine 4 at the time, um, uh, which was fun. And then I had to do all the camera animation, I had to edit all the sequences. I edited them in Unreal Engine as well. And then there was VFX, art direction and lighting that I had to oversee. And then the actual rendering and integration of the render movies into the game I had to oversee. So I did a lot for that, so to speak. And
Our
here,
story is
I'll
more
play
than
this.
the
This is
promise of Elves Low.
the intro
It is
video. So it
time
plays at the
we
start of the
told
game.
ourselves.
We got John Rice Davies to reprise his voice as Gimli for this. But I was responsible for pretty much everything on screen. Granted, I didn't make the map, but another company made the map, but they sent the assets and I put them into like Premiere or something. I can't remember, and then rendered those out. Um,
With hammer and
but
axe,
let's
we cleanse the
yeah,
world
this
from the
basically
shadows
this
of night
cinematic
as a
is. Oh
scattered,
wait, I like this shot.
yet we dwarves celebrate as a scattered
This
people,
cinematic was
cut
basically to
off
show the
from our
player, hey,
one
these are the
true
types of
home.
things you're gonna do in the game.
Across Middle
So we
Earth,
have
we
like the
mine,
drinking
scout,
and the
delving for
foraging
riches,
and
yet the
mining and all that
greatest
stuff.
treasure remains
Just kind of
out of our
showcasing kind of
reach.
game stuff, game ideas.
Moria. Durin built it before the first sun rose, and through the ages, when darkness threatened our great kingdom, he awoke to lead us again, until the Balrog took it all away. That was 1,000 years ago, and Durin the Deathless has not returned.
And mind you, this is just me and another guy
Some
doing
say,
all the
be
mocap
patient.
for all
I
this.
say,
So we did all the
wait no
mocap,
longer.
and then
It
I
is
went in and
time
did all
to
the
journey
cameras
from
on the
every
mocap,
mountain.
and then built the scenes and put it together.
Come, rally together. Bring your axes and tools, craft and courage. It is time. We dwarves return to Moria.
So this final shot actually seamlessly blends into the player start screen, the start menu. That was a technical achievement. And then
Yes,
there's an opening
dwarves from
cinematic.
every
I'll send
clan
the
have
links to all
answered your
this stuff
call,
so you can see the
despite
whole
the
thing.
king
But
under the mountains.
this was fun. Actually, you know what? I guess I'll play half of it.
Yes,
Let me just start from
Gimli, you can't.
here.
We have to wait for Durin.
Durin's not here. We have
So the
to do this
dwarves are
ourselves.
debating
Maybe
blowing
this will
up a
wake him
mine
up.
to get into it.
Limin Barak, Limin Tagaz.
I'm not a big Lord of the Rings fan, so I'm not really sure that's important to them.
Oh, no,
but it's important to them.
Lord Gimli, this This is another sign.
Oh, hammer tongues. It's the
So all
fourth
this stuff
age.
would be like virtual
Nothing is
camera
going to
stuff. So like
stop
I was
us.
on stage, like shooting all the scenes that we recorded from
Lord
mocap.
Gimli?
Except for this.
Let's
This I hand animated.
Hearken
Just
then.
because it worked out
It's nice and
easier.
tight.
I don't know.
Come on, help him out.
Wonder, can I fast forward? No, I cannot. Anyway, he falls into the hole, and that's when the game starts. And curtains. Um, and then so now I'm working on a project for a shooter called Ready or Not. Um, we're doing a lot for them at our studio. DLC, all kinds of stuff. I'm not going to show any of that stuff because the stuff that I was involved in or am involved in should be going live. Should have been this month. I don't know what the deal is, but that's not really up to me. Um, but I'm responsible for a cinematic for their latest or their next announcement, which should come, I don't know, this month, next month, or something like that. So I won't show that because that's probably hot on the press at some point soon. But it's a cool franchise to be a part of, especially with like a lot of us came from Call of Duty, obviously including myself. So that's exciting. Ugh, now we can pause recording and go into some of the things that I've been doing recently. I'm gonna wait for the cue. And then I started after we lost that project, that big project. I said, you know what, we need something we can work on that we can that can't be taken away. So I started working with MetaHuman. So these are actually some stills from a project that I just started. We did it over the course of maybe really 3.5, 4 weeks, where we I wrote it and then we cast it, shot it, did it. I figured out all the issues that we would have from a technical standpoint, and then said, "Let's do it." Um, let me see if I can. There we go. So we made a cinematic, or rather, I made a cinematic, and then brought some people on to help me do it. But it's all mocap. There is some additional animation to it. I built another virtual camera to shoot it because again, I wanted to use the same things that I learned from the previous project where we're doing this kind of uh, IMAX platform for Unreal Engine. And that was easily 18 months of research just down the drain. So I'm like, okay, well, use as much as we can to do this second quick project and get it off the ground. And so I built this camera to help assist our filming of this project. Um, and so it's got different controls like this one's not just a handheld, there's also remote controls that we use controls off of a Switch controller, a Nintendo Switch, so we can do it remotely and like trigger different parts of the different aspects of the camera, change lenses, change focus, zoom in, zoom out, that type of stuff. And so I'm going to show some clips of the project that we shot. Again, this was like maybe this is a 5 minute thing. It's a 5 minute cinematic. It's about 3.5 weeks of work. And then that from nothing to finished. This is the 16 by 9 version. We have an IMAX version. I'll send that link out. It's on YouTube. Um, and It's funny because I did my senior thesis at Michigan, and I used all 12 months, including those ones in the summer, the 4 months in the summer before, to do this cinematic, this mocap thing, this mocap project. And I think that's when I met Steffen, really. And that took 8 months, and the amount of work was um, significant. But the amount of work that I did for this, which was 3.5 weeks, 4 weeks or so, like it was the same amount of work. So just taking the knowledge that I learned all those years and then just redoing my own senior thesis project, like I could do that in 3 weeks versus 8 to 12 months. That's amazing. And part of it is the tools that you use, like MetaHuman, Unreal Engine, and a lot of things that you guys are going to kind of learn about are the tools that help propel a lot of this technology and ease of use forward. So, uh, yeah, because this has probably more work in it than my senior thesis had, but we did it clear like in fractions of a time. And I did it mostly alone. Most of this was just me, and then we brought in some animation and audio stuff at the very end. But let me go to the fun part. Uh, and then I'll send this out in the link. Um, so you can watch it on your own time. So it's a fun little 5 minute ride, but I won't spoil the ending. So we'll just watch just this one quick fight. So this is all mocap um, people and props, and we also mocap their faces as well. And then all of the audio we recorded on stage during the capture as well, with the exception of the female character's face and voice. We shot all this, got this all assembled in a matter of 2 days, 3 days, and then played the edit back for the actress on a day later, and she did face and voice to her stunt doubles performance.
Wait, no, 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 no.
But yep, and the props. Okay, I'm gonna leave it there. The props, were all mocapped, and that was it. We just left the props as is. There's no added animation to that. But all that to kind of boil down to the point of like, well, if you do a lot of work, you're gonna find a lot of opportunity, and y working in that opportunity is going to help you elevate your craft, and then you just recycle and do it all over again. So um, a lot of this stuff, a lot of like the cinematic that I just showed you, this cinematic that kind of spawned out of like, oh crap, we have all this kind of knowledge that we don't know what to do with now because we're not working on that game anymore. Like, okay, well, let's do a thing real fast. We learned, we built our entire, at the studio, we built our entire pipeline for MetaHuman and cinematics and stuff like this off just doing this. And this is what I showed to Void Interactive, which got us the job to do cinematics for Ready or Not. Because before we had this, there was nothing to show, and there was no reason for them to think that we could handle the cinematics for their game. But they came in for a visit once, and they had just got off the phone with their team, telling them like, "Hey, yeah, we can't do cinematics because they don't have a team for it, they don't have time for it." And then just in our conversations, I was talking to their GM. I showed them this, and it wasn't even done. I think this was 1 week from being done, and it was only work in progress at the time. But they're like, "Oh, wow, maybe you guys can do our cinematics instead of us handling ourselves." And we said, "Yes, we can." And that wouldn't have happened had I not just said, well, I got to do something with all this stuff that I learned from this last 18 months on this project that's no longer on our plate anymore. So, always do stuff. Just do stuff because you're going to find a lot of opportunity that way. When I was just finishing at U of M, after the first summer, I had my first 3D class in art and design. I spent 3, 4 weeks building just a big CG car, like a vehicle in Maya, and then spent about a month just doing stuff in Maya. And that was on my first resume that went out to like it found its way to ID Tech camps, and they're like, oh, we'll make you one of our modeling teachers. So like the first jobs I ever got was because I was just doing work for the sake of trying to elevate my craft. So I did more work. It gave me an opportunity and allowed me an opportunity to elevate my craft. And then so okay, I just keep doing more work. So that's always my advice. And then we come full circle to Way of Water. Now, obviously, since I made this what do you call it, presentation, Fire and Ash has come out. So we're not going to cover much of that in this, but we'll talk about just Avatar in general. This was one of their stages. This was like my first week on Avatar. I walked into stage and I saw, oh my God, they built a jungle in the mocap stage, and so they're going to shoot people in mocap suits, as well as live action characters in this jungle, and that's on the set, that's on the stage, and that kind of blew my mind because I was used to, like probably most of you, anytime you see a motion capture stage, you're typically used to it being empty, or some degree of empty. And week one, I'm just like looking at a jungle set inside the volume, and that was like, how are we gonna do this? How is this gonna work? So that was fun. Um, and just from a general standpoint, Avatar was weird because it did not follow traditional frameworks for what people did across motion capture and animation. Typically, motion capture, whether it's a game or film, is segmented. It's like, okay, for mocap, you're going to do these jobs, and then animators are going to take care of everything else. Your job is just to do the animation and send it, or sorry, do the motion capture retargeting and solving, and send that to an animator to deal with. But on Avatar, that was not the case. Oops. We mocap pretty much did all of the below, right? So we were obviously responsible for all the stuff that happened on set, but we were also responsible for obviously cleaning up the data, retargeting to characters. But we assembled the animation. We blended animation where if you had a performer who, like, let's say Sigourney Weaver is doing a performance, and then she has to do a stunt to her stunt double, Alicia Valabella. I can't remember how to pronounce her last name. Alicia. And Alicia would do the stunt, and then they would go back to Sigourney Weaver's performance. We were responsible for animating those transitions. Um, from time to time, we even did creature animation. I've never done creature animation in my life until I was working on this thing. Because sometimes we just had to animate the creature because we just had to, because there was no mocap on it or something or whatever. But yeah, we would essentially, mocap would take shots all the way to final, all the way to like, okay, we can send it to Weta now to render, which was a crazy pipeline, obviously. So everything took longer, but you were working on shots for a lot longer. Um, oh, here's a little segment which might answer some questions, kind of like what we were doing. So like, yeah, we mocapped people underwater. We did not mocap certain things like hair, because that was always just going to be driven by physics, and Weta would handle that.
Dude's been following
Um,
horses the same way since
but we did
True.
mocap
When I
people
first
and
was approached by
props
Gary, he
and
was like,
certain
"You gotta
things that
invent some
maybe
stuff, and
needed
it's
to be
probably not
mocapped.
possible, but if anybody can figure it out,
And we had
thinks I can,
two
so let's
water
do it."
tanks. The one that you're seeing now, that one with the white floor, that was a tank that could the floor could lower, and they could create environments, or surface
We
environment
got to
like
be the first people
hills
that have
and
actually
slopes
ever
and
taken
whatever.
underwater. I
Um,
kept getting ripped
and it
off, and
was,
Garrett's
I
like,
think it
"Dude,
went to
can't you stay
30
on that
feet
thing?" I'm like,
in
"Man,
that
I'm
black
trying."
hole part. And then we had a smaller
Like, raise
tank
your hand,
that
it's
was
so fast.
something like 20 feet deep and
Fighting
maybe
underwater, what it
maybe
reminds me of is if we
30
were
feet
in the gym
across.
and
But
we were
but
hitting
yeah,
the
this
heavy
one was
bag,
almost
you're
like
hitting
a
the heavy
football
bag as
field.
fast as you can, as many
And
times as you can, and as hard as you can while holding your
funny
breath.
thing is,
See
so their
along
final
those lines,
fight
that's
that we're
probably
looking
what
at,
your
this knife
limit's
fight
going to be
between Quaritch
underwater.
and Jake, that fight is like 4 minutes long underwater. I thought those guys were gonna die, but they fought underwater for like 4 minutes, and in this sinking ship set. And I think only maybe half of that fight is in the movie.
And this is one of the processes that
uh,
makes this film feel so
so
real, is
it
that
got
it
cut
was
down
real. Now
just
we're
in
underwater,
the
we're
editing
really
room, but
fighting
it was a
underwater. And
fantastic
so that's part of the
experience just
process
to
of
just
making it
work
real.
on it,
One of the
see
things I
those guys
love about
do
working
that
with
stuff.
Jim is that he will create that environment for you.
Um,
If we need real
Here,
fire,
let me.
there's gonna be real fire in that stage.
But
If
yeah,
we
someone
need
had
those
asked. I know
physical
someone
beats
had
of our
asked about
hands
the
moving around
the
to make it real, it will
mocapping in
be
water.
there.
If we shot in water, and we did for sure. And that was part of the process of like sugar. So this is the hardest shot of my entire career. My entire career boiled down to these 27 days of working days of just trying to recreate this this shot, because there's a lot of white water, and white water or moving rapid water with bubbles gets a lot of confusion with the optical tracking system. And so, you're looking at, now I'll show you what you're going to be looking at, but I had to use the actors when they're underwater. They have two mocap systems actually. Um, there's the optical system where you can see the markers on their bodies, like you can see them kind of like on their helmet and on their wetsuits. But underneath their wetsuits, they had Extend suits, which are accelerometer based, but they had spent like 40 grand a piece to waterproof Extend suits and put them under the wetsuits as a redundancy for the event, for any event of like, oh, the water was too crazy, like because they built rivers and little waterfalls. They built lots of moving water sets. So anytime we couldn't see that, like the system couldn't catch markers in there, we had the XN suits as redundant data. So that scene where spoilers, Natam dies, um, where you've got all these characters carrying him, like I couldn't even you couldn't even see where their what their bodies were doing because the water was too violent. So I had to use the Extend suit data to get just like basic like bone rotation, and then use the ref cameras that we had, and we had like 17 of them to find out find someone's pose any given time in space. But their heads were typically above water, so I could track their heads, and that would give me positioning. So I had to pretty much merge hand key animation using reference video, mocap data from an Extend suit that had to be adjusted because it was not accurate at all, and then the optical data to get their positioning, and then make that look exactly the way it should look. So yeah, that was probably the hardest. That was definitely the hardest shot of my entire career, like just working on that because I've never worked on just one thing for 27 days straight, like nonstop for 10, 12 hours a day. Um, but we got an Oscar for it, so great. So I guess it was worth it. And that, yeah, that's what it looks like. That's what this actually isn't the worst it can look, but this is some of the worst mocap you can look at. This might even be from that scene. But you've got four characters in there, so there's four people in there, and then that which means that there's 252 markers that have to be identified. And there's easily over 1,000 markers just in this cloud. This was, again, this one wasn't the worst because if you notice on the footage, oh, real quick, if you can see right here. So notice how it's all white? It's because they've got these little plastic, or I don't know what they're made out of, but with these white balls on the surface of the water, like the size of small, what are they called? Like just a little bit smaller than ping pong balls, but they block the light from going into the water so that when you're underwater, you see the only like light that gets reflected a lot are coming from the markers themselves and not just water and light refracting. But obviously, because of that, it can create other issues. But before they had that, there was nothing, and it was just open water, and that made data look like basically a cloud of dots, and you couldn't discern one person from anything else. But when so we got something like this is like, oh, this I can work with this. This is fine. Um, so this is actually what underwater mocap looked like once they finally figured out once we figured out the processing settings on the back end and the kind of layer of plastic balls on the surface to block overhead light from entering the water. So on this shot, this is a stream. This is he's holding on to a one of those vehicle underwater vehicles, and he's just swimming along, and this is like kind of a rushing water going by. So I remember a lot of people in my industry, friends of mine, had told me, "There's no way you guys can actually see markers underwater. That's impossible. You guys are lying." And so I actually took this video just to prove, like, no, 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 we are literally mocapping people underwater optically, and this is what it looks like. So. This is kind of what it looks like. You can kind of see like the if you look closely, you can see like some of the whipping of the marker just from the current of the water going through it. But that's always fun. Fun to look at this stuff now. Let me see if I can. And this is a shot. So the previous shot was in our software called Identify, and that's where we would for Avatar. That's where we would just do. Um, just the marker labeling. And then this is from our software called Nuance, where we can see the character skeletons or character rigs, and that's what we kind of retarget and solve the animation to. So we get the mocap data and then apply it to the characters. And our job is to make sure that the intent of the performer is translated to the character rig. So what that means is, let's say someone squatted down and rested their butt on their heels. Well, because of the proportion differences between humans and Navi, Navi are much more wiry. Just as a raw retarget would not have the connection of that Navi character's butt on their heels. They'd be floating above just because there's more meat on a person than on a Navi. So our job was also to lower. So after we redo a solve, we animate IK goals and stuff like that, similar to like Emotion Builder, where we kind of meet the butt of the Navi to the heels of the Navi so that the intent of the performance is preserved because that person didn't mean to squat, they meant to sit. So we have to make the character do the same thing. And that principle permeates everything on literally every moment of every piece of mocap we touched. Um, and then also we were able to see we're also able to see it in the identify software as well, the reference video, and or the real-time video. So like behind you, you can see the reference of the on-stage camera, the virtual camera that was filming on stage underwater, filming these two performers. But what they saw in the camera was the virtual environment and the virtual characters. So my job was to make sure that once I retargeted all that animation to the characters, that they would end up in the same spot. So we're looking at a live, so there's actually like data on the camera that we're looking through, as well as on the characters as well. So uh, this was something that we would have to like verify daily, that you've got reference video in every shot, because I think only once ever the visual effects supervisor came up to our one of my colleagues and looked at his scene and then immediately said, "Where's the reference video?" He's like, "Don't ever do anything without reference video." Okay, so that was a rule. Oh, and here's another shot. Oh, this was fun because you might not be able to. I don't know if you can see it. I don't because I don't know what how well it's seen, but this shot is in the second movie. This shot is a shot that I had to change because Disney did not like how violent the original shot was. So they made me change it, or rather, they requested it to be changed, and then the VFX or the supervisor said, "Mark, you do it." So basically, you can see kind of, oh, I need to pause this. I'm gonna pause it right around here, I guess. Anyway, you can see the reference video, so and then you can see kind of what the characters are doing, and then I don't know if you can see it, but there's a wireframe purple also. The wireframe purple is what the shot used to be, which will match the video, and then what the characters are doing is kind of what I changed it to be. But so like I had to try to match the intent, but not change like but change kind of like the violence level. So like ultimately, because again, I don't know if you guys can see it, the knife went into the guy's neck, and Disney requested that the knife. Well, I don't know what Disney requested. I don't know if they requested it not go into his neck, but they decided that the solution would be the knife will go into his ribs instead. So I had to still keep timing with the performance and make sure everything matched up so that because the cameras were done, so the cameras and all that would be still preserved, but I had to change the violence level creatively. So that was fun because they didn't want to. Yeah. Anyway, that was them. Anyway, so my well overall advice. Oh my God, I hate Mac. Would be after graduation, become a student of your craft. Because like so I kind of like jotted down kind of like a lot of the things that I decided to try to learn on like on the job. Um, Probably I still like at one point I pivoted to VFX, so I was doing a lot of in with VFX, I was learning more about real-time rendering and compositing and team management and all that problem solving and stuff led to me having more skill sets to talk to other teams in like games and film and stuff when I would move to different companies or whatever. Or like the whole, like I mentioned, the 18 months of learning about IMAX lenses and IMAX film format and IMAX cinematography just so that I can have an understanding of what it is in the real world, so I can like try to translate it into Unreal Engine because I had not seen any examples of IMAX photography inside of, or IMAX, virtual IMAX photography inside of Unreal Engine anywhere. So I didn't have a resource to look up to just say, okay, let's just do that. So I had to learn it on my own. So that's generally what I would say is just continue to learn more stuff. And trust me, I have an Academy Award, so it works. We know it works. It's proven. And then these are my contact information stuff, like Instagram I'm that mocap guy. LinkedIn is just my name. And then my personal email is markofgodai@gmail.com, and my work email is mark@freerangegames.com. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you so much.
Ooh. So hopefully we have time for some questions. I know I've got some of the ones written down. I can go through them pretty quickly if you
Okay,
want, or we can do something organic.
let's start organic and then go from there. Anybody have a question? Remember their question, or their question didn't get answered?
Quiet bunch.
There's
Oh,
one.
okay.
Oh, okay. I saw Conan first, so yes.
After taking a mocap class last semester and I'm TAing for this class right now, my interest in motion capture has like rapidly increased. What would you say is your like favorite part and least favorite part about being in this kind of like field?
Um, well, the favorite part is that technology just like, uh, advances so quickly. You get to see a lot of just technology in use, and sometimes you get to pioneer. I think on Avatar, every day was reinventing the wheel. And as tiring as that is, it's still kind of fun because no one's ever done it before. So you're always trying to find a solution to a problem no one's ever seen. And so if you like challenges, then like I for some reason I like challenges. That it comes it's super fun. Um, I'd say the most challenging is everything with working inside the actual field is great. It's the worst part is when you have a client and they don't know and they don't know, or they have assumptions that are just wrong, and you have to educate them on some people are like, hey, can you shoot us mocap and just give us the raw data, and then we'll just put it in our movie. Like, well, that's not how it works, guys. Or like, what do you like, can you just give us the cleaned up data at the end of the day? No, because someone has to go and clean it. Like, so uh, I would say I haven't found a downside yet from a technical standpoint or an experience standpoint. I love it all, but actually, yeah, the worst experiences were with directors that didn't know anything about, but yet were tasked to direct these motion capture projects, and they had no idea what they were doing. That was probably the worst experiences.
Well, I'm just going to jump in and say that when we're learning to clean the data, which is going to happen when we're finished with you today, Mark, we're going to
Hmm.
clean some motion capture data for the first time. Just, we only have 57 markers or 61 that we're working with, not 1,000. So
Well, that'd be 1,000 like total.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
The
yeah,
average, yeah, anything from 51 to 67 markers on a person.
yeah.
Yeah, we use a marker set that's 55 markers, or no, 57 markers. And
Mhm,
then if we ever did optical fingers, we would have like 61 or something like
mhm.
that. Stephanie O'Malley had a question, and it's what are your thoughts on Blender for mocap integration? 100% trash. Those are my thoughts. But I'll get back to that. Hold on. Increasingly, we're modeling animation classes that are Michigan gravitating. Yep, they're gravitating towards Blender. Everyone is. And Maya industry standard. Okay. So Maya is an industry standard only because in the early days, Autodesk set up uh, these nice agreements with all of these different long-term companies, and so Maya became the standard that everyone was using. And so in the professional world, and so that translated to like education institutions adopting the same idea. Obviously, I remember when Blender first came out, it was atrocious. And I just remember looking at it like, well, clearly this is made by an engineer. No one in their right mind would try to use this because it's just so cumbersome in terms of its user interface and design experience and stuff like that. But nowadays, I use Blender for everything. My pipeline personally is Blender and Unreal, and that's it, with the exception of mocap and animation. I'll use Motion Builder because no one comes close to what Motion Builder can do outside of like the Lightstorm system or the system that we have for Avatar. But Motion Builder is fantastic for education or professional level stuff in terms of motion capture and animation. It has probably the best tool set to interpret mocap and then apply mocap to almost anything. Blender is way behind in that field because the most of the people that utilize a lot of higher end mocap solutions typically use other software, just because that was what it was historically. But yes, there is a huge shift towards using Blender, one because it's free, but for mocap, it ain't there yet. I've tried. I've begged to the community gods of Blender's organization. They're just not there yet. They have some integration with lower end mocap solutions like Rococo suits and maybe Extend suits, I think now. But you can't do a production on like a mocap animation production with that tool sets and and survive. Like it's just not ready. And it's way too confusing and cumbersome. Their whole animation workflow is just like, why? Anyway, but yeah. I love Blender, but I hate it for mocap and animation currently.
Yeah, I have a question about the limitations of mocap. You
There are
guys,
no limitations. Go on.
I know you guys did mocap in the water, but have you guys used that on like actors like in the air stunts in the air, where it's like free falling or
Yeah, sure. Sure. Yeah. No, I mean the way you mocap is not an optical system. You do something like an accelerometer suit like extends. So like if you want to mocap skydiving, we have an indoor skydive range in like Hollywood or whatever called Sky something. I can't remember. Um, but like it's basically just a skydive tube, and so you can just set up your accelerometer suit on your performer, jump in, and you can mocap someone skydiving. Easy.
Which is probably how a biomechanist would do it,
Yeah.
actually.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah. Because you still want a
Yeah.
controlled environment, right? So like could you put it on a wireless laptop system, take it up on a plane, and then have a tandem jump with the performer and a guy with the laptop strapped to his chest? Sure. But that's not really a controlled environment. They probably just go to the indoor skydive range.
Okay, Dari has a question, but I am going to ask a follow-up on Motion Builder.
Sure.
So you use Motion Builder for blending movements, or what is it that you use Motion Builder for before you go into Unreal Engine?
So I sometimes use Motion Builder to blend motions. You can. I certainly do sometimes if I think I need to do that before I get to Unreal Engine. You can also do it in Unreal Engine sequencer. You can totally blend animations that way. You can even go in, blend animations, and then bake that out as a new animation in Unreal Engine as well. But you can also do that in Maya or Motion Builder and Maya now because Maya has Maya clips. So you can do it in any package, Maya, Motion Builder, or Unreal. It just depends on one, what you're comfortable with doing it, and whether or not you think you might have to backtrack. So I would do blending probably in Motion Builder because I know I can control if I need to go back and re-edit something, or add something to it or something a little easier than if I did it in Unreal. But it's just preference. But you can do that
So why
blending
is that
anywhere.
Motion Builder in your pipeline? What do you
Because
use?
in Motion Builder has better uh mocap solving
Hmm.
capabilities than say Unreal. Unreal has a retargeter and some real runtime IK tools, which are great, but not as intuitive or as good as what Motion Builder has. Like Motion Builder was built for it. Unreal Engine is kind of acquiring those features kind of piecemeal, like right now. So it's just a better tool, and it's not as heavy as Unreal. Like Unreal is a big tool. Motion Builder is super light on the computer, so you can run Motion Builder and just have just the animation tools that you need there. And then you can do Motion Builder allows you to do batch work that Unreal does not let you do, right, really, for especially for retargeting animations. So I can take if I have 25 different mocap files, I could import a range of motion first and then do my retargeting, set up what I feel is the best retarget settings, and then import 20 files and then export the retarget after I bake it all and export 20 files. So I can get through a batch of motions in the time it takes one versus Maya or Unreal, where I have to do that one at a time. So our team, we go through hundreds of animations, but we still need to like QC them and do all the stuff. So Motion Builder allows us to have a lot of animations up and ready to go, and we can QC them all at once and then export them all at once, or set them or change their settings all at once as opposed to one at a time.
Awesome. Hey, Mark, I think I'm off screen in the corner over here. Hello.
Hello. A
But
little, a
my
little
name's
more. I
Sarah.
saw you an arm. I saw an arm wave. Ah, there we
Hello.
go. Hey.
My name's Sarah Skandari slash Dari. I'm the one who messaged you
Yep.
because you helped me start working at the Dude 10 years ago when you were a stamp student, and I interviewed you as an alum. And so you're kind of the one that set me on the path to start working at the Dude and eventually help with Melissa. Your talk is so interesting. I'm really interested about your creature design that you had to do for Avatar because I know nowadays everything's mostly bipedal. So how did you swing that?
So you mean a creature animation? I didn't do creature design. I did creature animation.
Yeah, how did you
Um,
do your animation?
we in the same software that we did all of the body animation for the characters. So that most of the time, most of the time we would get is some sort of just like a prop, there would be some sort of representation of the creature on stage. So let's say it's a banshee, right? They would mocap that banshee as like a prop, like maybe his saddle and maybe sometimes their head too, independently. So you'd have like the head and the saddle, and then the actual performer on it. And we would get that data, and so we would have to, and we would have proxies for that, for those skeletons that we would solve onto those objects, just like props. And then on occasion, if the shot required it for camera later, because we were building the shots so that we can send it to the sequence team to assemble it into the environment so that Cameron or someone could do cameras on it on stage. So we sometimes it was like, oh, we need the shot of the head and this person petting the head or something. So like, okay, cool, we have the bones. We would just animate it in our software um, relatively easily. We had a lot of um, modular IK tools to help quickly animate stuff like that. And we use those same tools that we use for the body for those creatures. Sometimes we would get finished creature animation and we would have to change it because the mocap they wanted to use was different than the original mocap that was done for that creature's performance. So, which happened often, to where like, oh, well now they want to use this stunt instead of that, or this performance instead of that. So we gotta instead of we can either move the character or we can adjust the creature. And sometimes it was a compromise. Sometimes you were specifically ordered, no, they like the performance of the person, change the creature to match the person. So sometimes we would do that too. So it's just
That's awesome. So was it like an animatronic plus a marker system plus some human elements then?
No,
Also,
so they have a very special system that's a proprietary system. It allows you anything with a skeleton, it allows you to create IK points anywhere on anything and then create relationships to those IK points anywhere and then blend between uh performances unlike anything you've probably ever seen before on any software. So it made it very easy. So if I wanted to like, I just want to move this creature's head somewhere over there, I can say, okay, let me grab him by the nose, set up IK point, and then let that IK point affect his entire neck, and then turn it naturally. And it was super easy. And then I can say, okay, blend in, blend out, done. It was very, very fast, very clever built tools to accommodate for motion capture editing.
Awesome.
Unlike like an IK system on like a Maya rig, it was not that cumbersome. It was super easy, but just as powerful.
Okay, IK rig inverse kinematics. Some of
Yep.
you with an engineering background might know what that is. All right, it's time for the last question, and I'm gonna take it. So, one thing we're interested. Oops, I'm almost standing there.
Before you start, I'll
One
say
thing we're
this.
interested in this course is actual human movement versus fictitious human movement. So when you animate,
Mhm.
you're actually creating movement.
No, I
I
technically
mean,
sure.
okay. So
Yeah,
this is what I want to talk about. With motion capture, you actually have captured real human movement, but when you blend or add a tail,
sure. Yeah,
you're creating movement. So,
correct.
um, or maybe having the beard, a dwarf's beard move in response to the dwarf's head movement or something. That's getting created, right? That's not,
Uh, well, that's usually like a systemic thing, but the
yeah,
tail, yeah, you could say the
yeah.
tail.
Okay. So, you've been looking at human movement now for decades and
Yep,
really, really closely.
yep.
So, do you think that that's a really important part of somebody doing a job like yours, which is to be a really good observer of human movement?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. That's where the job starts is kinesiology, really. It's
Mhm,
in understanding kinetic motion.
mhm,
Um, it's been a theme that is has been important literally since day one, 2011, like getting my first job till now is
mhm,
studying mo like an actual person's motion and their nuance and um getting that motion to come through on a character.
mhm,
And the more understanding you have of like human motion, the better you're going to be at translating it to anything else, whether it's a Navi alien character or a weird character or just another digital double, like a one-to-one virtual character, like those metahumans. The better your understanding of it, just human motion, the better you're going to be at doing mocap, just in general.
mhm. Well, thank you so much for your generosity and sharing your time with us today. It's been amazing. Oh, Conan wants, is it a quick one?
Sure.
Because
Yeah,
you've
sure.
been with us for a while. Okay.
Sorry, I'll make this quick. I was just curious, like I know you mentioned before for Avatar in the water, like you guys had the white ping pong balls like on the surface.
Hmm.
Correct me if I'm wrong. I know that you guys were using like black balls before.
They tested that.
Yeah. I was just curious on like how much contribution you guys make like on decisions like that during like the movie set with the director. I'm just
I mean, well, it's that's kind of like the department. It's very like interdisciplinary. So those decisions were made relatively early. By the time I got there, they had already realized, okay, we need white balls on the surface of the water. But by the time I got there, there were still at least 6 months of data that had no balls on it whatsoever. That was like a mess to go through and fix. But those decisions were made by not committee, but like Cameron hired the best people in the world that he could find to answer certain questions. And so like if me, I don't know anything about. I know that like light reflects underwater, or refracts underwater, but and I see the results of it, but I'm not the guy that you would ask for like, hey, what's a one, an effective and also two, safe uh material and functional material to put on the surface of the water to make all this stuff work better. I'm not the guy to ask. That was a that was beyond me, but it was definitely made with a few people contributing to that, and I'm sure there were specialists from the LA River, including Cameron, and then his probably his main technical team guys, probably like two or three of them. One guy, Brian Chamney, to make that decision because it was going to obviously permeate through the whole production. And this
Okay.
list of questions that I've got from you, Melissa, I'll try to spend some time with it today and try to email out answers to those if we miss them.
Well, that would be absolutely fabulous. Can we thank Mark, please, for his time today? Thank you so much. Okay, we'll be in touch. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you. You too.
Alrighty.
Cool. Thanks, everybody. Have a good one.
Okay, so it is now what I thought was